Triple intake. Feeling your shoulders relax and your back arching a little bit, which opens up your heart chakra. Tucking your chin down a little bit, which opens up your crown chakra and lines up all of your energy. Hands relaxed. Dropping the shoulders a little bit more. Really feeling like becoming present. Feeling your body relax. Sensing that your mind is becoming quiet. Here we reach the state of euphoria and a theta brainwave that connects us to spirit. When we quiet our mind, we can hear all levels of communication from different realms. Continuing to breathe. You focus on your breath, feeling it go in and out all the way down to the bottom of your diaphragm. We are inspired when we breathe this deep. To be inspired is to be in spirit. Calling in your guides, your guardian angels, any ascended masters or archangels that you work with. And if you're not familiar with who you work with, simply call in all of those that assist you and are your companions in spirit for your highest and best good, and only those of the highest and best intention to be of spiritual counsel. Recognize and remember all the times that information was present in you that you now realize was an inspired thought. This does not discredit you in any way, but rather empowers you to be connecting to those that would assist you. Feeling that energy, beginning to recognize that resonance. Feeling grounded deep into Mother Earth and connected to the ethers, sending your energy out all over the earth plane. Knowing your energy expands in all directions, 360 degrees. Feel the beauty and the peace of this knowledge. Feeling your heart space open even more. Gentle, gentle. Everything about our existence is divine, gentle, graceful, peaceful, centered, balanced, empowered, purposeful. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the room. Thank you, Jason. That was beautiful. Jason Day, our guest pianist this morning. And I think all of you know our guest speaker, Steve Lesko. He's been sitting in our group for a long time. And Steve's going to talk to us about channeling, a favorite topic for a lot of us here. And you know, I think today, rather than me doing my thing and you doing your thing, I think we're probably going to be a little bit more interactive. Because I have so much to say about it, and I'm sure you do too, and I'm sure we'll respond off of each other. I know that Vanceville channels, and you all channel, whether you realize it or not. And I always share how profoundly psychic and intuitive we all are, whether or not we acknowledge it and are aware of it, and whether or not we may or may not do it professionally, but we all are. And we all channel as well. Channel simply means when the information comes in that we voice it out. It could be voiced out in a healing session or in a classroom, seminar speaking, like Abraham Hicks, Esther and Abraham Hicks channeled the voice of Abraham. Music, most of the music that's out here today, these beautiful, profound pieces, and even some of the masters in Europe, their information was channeled. Most of the movies that we see, science fiction and fantasy, they're channeled. Star Trek was definitely channeled. And when you ask, well, what's the purpose? Well, sometimes information is so bizarre and so strange to us in our reality that if it's presented to us in the form of a fantasy movie or a science fiction movie, we go in there without having the negative discernment of, I don't believe that, because we go into the theater thinking, well, I'll just be entertained. This is a fantasy story, so we can go in there, relax, and just let the movie entertain us. But what's really happening is, by watching the movie, seeing the visual on the screen and hearing the words, it allows our entertainment to transfer into imagination. The imagination educates our brain of the possibility. You see, the brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not real. So when you're up there on the screen and you're watching spaceships and magic and incantations and unicorns and mermaids and dragons and fairies and, ETs, this information is going into our brain and it's just becoming very normal. Unfortunately, when there are violent movies, we also get desensitized to the violence because that also becomes normal. And so we hear a lot of people talking about Hollywood and how it desensitizes us through violence and the sex, but there's also the really, really good side of it, and that is that we're allowing possibilities of these fantasy things so that when we start opening up, and wouldn't it be easy to say that if you've watched a half a dozen movies about space, E.T. was probably one of the greatest ones that told us it was safe. As a child feels comfortable talking to an extraterrestrial, and everybody falls in love with this movie, and then there's this big spaceship, and they know all of these adults start talking to them. It kind of gives us a feeling of easiness. Doesn't that prepare us that if something like that were to happen, and it would become present, how many of us might subconsciously be tapping into memories of these movies that all of a sudden make it really more comfortable than something terribly frightened? So I think of all of these movies as preparation, as a way to allow us to feel comfortable with these ideas. Hi, come on in. Harry Potter was definitely a channel piece, that whole storyline. And I used to tease my kids and, say, by the way, all the stuff in Harry Potter is real. When you think about all of the information that she had in those books that J.K. Rowling had in there, every single creature or character was something from well-written mythology that had been established for thousands of years. There were no made-up ones in there. She drew on all of the ones that had been written about for thousands of years already, with full descriptions of their character, their look, their size, what they came from, what they did. And you have to remember that these were all written in different countries, different cultures, in different time spans, and yet the characteristics were the same. That's pretty close to empirical evidence as far as I'm concerned about establishing reality. we saw a movie on Thursday night. We were invited to go up to Hollywood by a colleague of mine named Zoe Golightly, and she invited Audubon and I and Tanya, Jesse, and her husband, and their husbands. So we closed the center a little bit early, and we all trekked up to Hollywood. And the movie was called The Way Shower. We were very excited because it was a new movie that was being released in Hollywood, and it was about a man who takes a spiritual journey. And the movie was actually terrible. It was really unfortunate, but we all walked out of there saying, oh, we just were waiting for it to end. And the screenplay was bad and the acting was bad, which was really a shame because the message was so beautiful and so lovely. So if you hear of the movie The Way Shower, go ahead and watch it, for the actual message that comes in there. But I unfortunately, the acting, it was unfortunately a low-budget movie. But I guess I just gave a public opinion. I'm realizing that. It was a great movie from the aspect that he talked about a man taking a spiritual journey, and he enlists the help of a shaman to help him make sense of it all. There's reference to a reincarnation. There's reference to mediumship and channeling information from spirit. There's reference to timeline and people coming in from the other side and talking to him. And I was really excited when we went to see the movie because it encourages me when Hollywood starts producing these things that are going to make these words and these phrases and these ideas very common in the mind of man, which warms up the whole process and opens it up to us, doesn't it? As I was preparing my idea for this morning, I got the idea earlier on this week with Steve being our guest speaker, and I went on my computer and I just Googled fantasy movies and science fiction movies. And I had a couple that I wanted to bring up, and maybe you've got a few of your own that you would like to share. But think of a lot of the movies that are out there and the messages that they've brought to us. The Wizard of Oz. Finding that there's no place like home, but it's in the heart, and that you can travel to all these different lands. That movie was the extrapolation of her subconscious mind, and all of the characters in it were her fears, and all she had to do was close her eyes and travel home, and everything was back to normal. And that was a beautiful way of describing what it feels like to get centered back into yourself and to get calm in your place and your point of reference. Feel free to share with me any movies as I list a couple, if any have come to mind. What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. This was a beautiful movie about when we go to heaven, and as he got there and he saw everybody had created their own version, and everybody was also, in some cases, going through their own hell. But it was, I thought, a lovely way of describing what happens after we pass, that we take our own perceptions with us to the other side, and we still create our own reality as we do here. I've got a few more on my list, but does anybody have any that they want to share that really inspired them and opened their minds?
We went to see The Vow last night.
The Vow?
Yeah, did you hear of it?
I heard of it.
It's based on a real story. It's about a couple who are newlyweds, and they get into a really bad car accident, and she loses her entire memory of their relationship. Her memory stops right before she met him. And this really happened to a woman, and so she woke up and she thought her husband was a doctor. And the whole point of the movie was that even though this woman had no idea who her husband was, she left the life that she built with him and went and started her old life again. And even though she couldn't remember in her mind, her body still remembered that she wanted the life that she built.
The cellular memory.
Yeah, it was like,
there.
And I don't know if they were trying to say that. That's what I got out of it. That it didn't really matter that her mind forgot. It mattered that it was supposed to be that way.
So even though some of her synaptic neurons weren't remembering that, there were other parts of her being that remembered that life and drew her to
all
it.
Different parts of it, like was it art school versus law school, and just all the different aspects of your life. That it's not always memories built on memories. It's the way that it's meant to be.
So even though she had an event that skewed her reality, there were parts that brought her back to her original place.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that is what happens to us. When we get off path, a lot of people will come into me and say, am I on my path? Am I on my path? Of course you're on your path. You don't even have to answer, because there is no wrong path or right path, and whatever happens in your life, whatever direction you're going in, you will always re-emerge. I mean, and your path may be this, and you may do this, you may dance around and cross it, but you never stray from your true path. There may be a little bit of wiggle room in there. But yes, let me reassure you, you're all on the right path. And like that movie shows, is even something as dramatic as having all of your memory robbed from you, you would naturally fall back into your life path.
What about Field of Dreams?
That was a great movie. That was definitely a channeled a message. I mean, this guy, a farmer in Iowa, all of a sudden gets this, build it, he will come, and he's looking at this, and he's getting a channeled message from an unknown entity, but it was about him finding peace in his own life with his father. Do you want to add to that, or any favorite movies of yours that you thought
Well,
gave
one
you?
that comes to mind is Avatar,
Oh.
because you start out on one mission thinking that this is why I'm here, and then find out that you have a whole different purpose.
How many of that has happened to us?
Transformation.
How many of us have had a really big awakening as to what we're supposed to be doing here?
And it's like, I know when I'm in my spiritual path, because there's peace and love and joy, and all the blessings are there, and when I'm not, there's emotional pain, but that's part of the realization and becoming aware to reemerge in my spiritual path. So these are all like learning experiences to direct me back into that channel.
I think when somebody asks, am I on my spiritual path, what they're really saying is, I don't feel like I'm on my spiritual path, and what they're really doing is not asking a question, but expressing an innate knowledge that they're not quite perfectly aligned with it, because you know when you are.
Yeah,
It just
definitely.
feels. And so really that's a good clue. If you are not feeling completely and perfectly aligned with your spiritual path, then it just means that you might be a degree or two off, but we're never really very far away. That umbilical cord to our spiritual path is always attached, but we may be a little bit left or right to it.
Sometimes it seems like we're very far away from it.
Yeah.
But those feelings are what we are here to learn, how to tune into, to help guide us in the direction of our source. So that it's not about, well, this is no good, so I did something wrong. It's about learning that this is what I'm here to understand. This is not what I choose. This is not what I want. So to re-choose, to choose again, and to steer yourself in a new direction. That's what our experience is all about.
The message that I was just given is, think about when you're in a classroom and you take an exam, and there's 10 questions on there, and you get 6 of them correct and 4 are marked wrong. Your perception could be, oh, I failed on these 4 questions, I'm stupid, I didn't know it, what's wrong with me? Or, oh, these are the 4 areas that I need to do a little bit more work in, and isn't it just an indication that that's where you need to do more work? So when we're not feeling like we're aligned in our spiritual path, instead of engaging in a thought process of, I'm wrong, I'm out of balance, I'm not connected, this is an area where I need to do a little bit of work. Think of it as information. Information to assist you rather than something being wrong. There is no right or wrong. There is no failure. You can't miss your life purpose. You can't miss the purpose. You might not learn everything that you could learn in this lifetime, but you can't fail the test in the end. So it's whether or not you want to take these feelings where you're feeling out of vibration and just recognize that this is a clue of how you can get back in.
Right. And it's realizing that we always have choices to
Everything
realign
is a choice.
into the path where we have the most peace and balance and joy.
So Hollywood is one great way that we get a lot of channeled messages. So you are visualizing channeled messages every time you go to a movie, whether you realize it or not, especially if it's a science fiction or a fantasy movie. A lot of the songs, Michael Jackson channeled most of his songs. We Are the World. And in this movie that we went to on Thursday night, the director was down in the front of the stage with a microphone, and he said that he had talked to Michael Jackson years earlier, and Michael Jackson, when he got lyrics to a word, he actually joked and said, "Hurry up, write those down before God gives them to Prince instead." If I don't produce them. The song by Bobby McFerrin, "Don't Worry, Be Happy," that's a channeled song. And think about the profound wisdom of that. You know, in 4 words, we can wrap up everything we need to do in our life. Don't worry, be happy. Because what is worry? Worry is engaging in fear. And happiness is engaging in spirit. So instead of being in fear, be in spirit. Don't worry, be happy. I mean, it's, 4 lyrics, 4 words to the lyrics of that entire song, except for the interlude where he said, "Here's a little song I wrote." So what Steve does, and what I do actually up here on Sundays, something. Oh, did you have a question, Jason?
Oh, no, I was just, there was a movie that was, I think, very profound for me. May I say?
Yeah, please.
It was Jacob's Ladder. I don't know if anyone ever saw that.
Actually, I heard of it, but I didn't see it.
Probably the deepest message in anything I've ever seen. And it wasn't like, it was a very dismal movie, a lot of sort of dark feel to it, but it had this very profound message in it. And the whole thing, is connected to movies like Inception, and these multiple layers going on at the same time, a dream within a dream within a dream kind of concept. But it was this, I don't want to give the plot away, it's too good, but there was this one quote which I thought was the greatest quote I've ever heard. It was, this guy was saying to Jacob, who was going through all these experiences, that, it's something like, "Jacob, did you ever realize that what you're perceiving as demons are actually angels in disguise?" And I really like that kind of notion all along.
Yeah.
Just want to share that.
That's a platform that I speak of also, as well as there are no evil people. We're all good people, but sometimes we're going through our own stuff, and sometimes people are just showing up in the highest possible realm to teach us what we need to learn or to point things out to us. The worst person in your life is your greatest teacher. It takes on that most important role. The Matrix is, of course, another favorite movie for jarring our holding on to what we think of as reality.
Yeah.
Seventh Sign, remember that movie?
So I didn't see that with Demi Moore.
15 years old.
With Demi Moore.
Demi Moore, yeah,
I didn't see it.
that's a good one.
Ghost I really liked with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze, and of course Whoopi. But I mean, that was probably one of the most beautiful ways that it taught people that life after death exists and that it's about love. And of course, she was a hilarious clairaudient.
Oh, yeah.
She couldn't see him, but she could hear him. I don't know if they never actually used the word clairaudient in the movie. I wish they had. But that was a perfect epitome of somebody. Now, she was channeling Sam. We use the word medium sometimes. Most people, when they think about somebody who talks to a deceased loved one, they use the word medium. But channeling and medium are really interchangeable terms. You are a medium, a translator. Information is coming into you. Now, those that do it with entities from different realms, a lot of people think that they speak and they're hearing actual dictation, but if you think about how they can translate into all these different languages, it isn't that Archangel Michael, knows every language in the world, but it's their information is beyond language.